Good morning, class. Welcome to Drugs, Brain, and Behavior, Fall Semester 2024. My name is Eric Olson, and I am your professor for this course. I'm going to share the syllabus with you now and briefly go over it. So yes, as you should know by now, this is an asynchronous online class, meaning that by design, we are never going to have to be in the same room at the same point in time. All material is posted for you, and you are going to participate or interact with this material on a weekly basis. There are really three sort of content divisions of the class. First, we're going to go over how pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics influence drug effects. This is basic pharmacology, but probably pretty new to you, versus other areas of the class where, you might have heard about, for example, cocaine or how cocaine might act on the brain. You've probably heard of dopamine, these sorts of things. But pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics tend to be one of the, harder content concepts in the class, mainly because you might just not be as familiar with it yet. So, but once we get through that, which the other parts of the class will build on, we will use that knowledge base to explore how various drugs of abuse influence the brain and behavior, in addition to really doing a deep dive into drug addiction. We will also then, for the final sort of third of the class, focus on psychiatric medicine and how psychiatric drugs produce their effects by acting on the brain. In addition to learning about content, you will also demonstrate your knowledge about and critical consideration about how psychiatric drugs and drugs of abuse have been developed and how we might do this better in the future. You're also going to critique several topics related to pharmacology. And I think that you will find this very interesting, hopefully. Finally, you are going to reflect on drugs in a media club. So you're going to join either a book club, a music club, or a movie club and talk about drugs in a slightly different way. I, of course, am going to go over mechanisms and how drugs produce their effects by acting on the brain and what pharmacokinetics is, what pharmacodynamics are. So we're going to learn that content. And we're also going to critique some experts in the field. But I think this other part adds a lot to sort of the deep thinking or critical thinking associated with drugs. Many artists, whether they be musicians or movie directors or authors, have spent a large amount of time reflecting on drugs and how drugs have impacted them. I would actually argue that I think drugs have inspired more pieces of art than just about anything other than religion and love. So I think it would probably be religion, love, and then drugs. There are just wonderful songs written about drugs, from some unique perspectives. So, I would like you to reflect on drugs from that perspective and write a critical thinking paper on it, which I'll come back to and describe in a minute. So I am a long standing and published addiction researcher. My training is more biomedical in nature. I did undergrad degrees in biology and psychology, and then went to earn my PhD at Wake Forest University School of Medicine, where I finished in under 5 years because I did my PhD on cocaine. Yes, but that is actually true. I did do my research on cocaine, but I've studied most drugs of abuse in my work at this point. I've published over 40 articles on cocaine, amphetamines, heroin, buprenorphine, alcohol. Although I actually haven't published many alcohol papers, including one that anyway. But barbiturates, that cannabis. I've done a lot of work with cannabinoids, which was the focus of my postdoctoral research. So drugs are my bread and butter. I'm happy to communicate by email and also set up Zoom meetings on demand. You should expect a response within 48 hours. If you have not received one, feel free to follow up and give me a little push. We also have an excellent TA for the class who you can reach out to as well. There is no required textbook for this class. All materials are made freely available to you using links within the schedule of events within this syllabus. So, notice that there are, very specific links in the end of the syllabus. So you don't want to, you're going to need to keep this syllabus handy. I expect it to take around 10 hours of work per week in this class. There are a lot of components to this class. Learning the content and the quizzes is only about 1/3 of the time and how you're supposed to be spending your time in this class. You get multiple drops in this class, which is sort of built in there to increase flexibility, equity, accessibility, and also some choice. And I think choice is a beautiful thing. Not only will this allow you to, for example, if you have a wedding or a surgery or something coming up and you need a week marked off, no problem. Let's say an accident comes up. You need you had to take a week for some unprecedented circumstance. So first of all, I am willing to work with anybody that has unprecedented circumstances. While I say you only get one unpenalized 48-hour makeup assignment for once, that is completely unexcused. I do, certainly work with students. So if you have an issue, do contact me if you need, additional time. However, you might not even need that because you can just drop or skip a quiz or, in addition, a critical thinking assignment. In fact, you only have to take 13 total quizzes. So 2 will automatically be dropped. And in addition, 1 additional quiz can be dropped if 70% of the class participates in their FCQs. Only 12 out of 15 of your thought questions will be graded. So that means you have 3 drops here or 3 choices. And I definitely would, ideally, you can emphasize choice or prioritize choice first. I mean, what are the 12 topics that you're most interested in discussing? And then maybe, if life gets in the way, you can move things around a little bit. But yes, I'd start by dropping the 3 that you just don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, just not interesting topics to you. And I think choice is a great thing in classes. I'm trying to build it into more. Not only does it allow you to tailor the course to your own interests, it allows you to deal with competing life events. So what's going on with these thought paragraphs? So for that, to earn full credit, I expect you to write a 100 to 200 word summary of your thoughts in response to the assigned material that I provide. In this class, I also provide prompts, sort of jumping off points that can lead your thought. I usually list more than 1 prompt to give you choice. When more than 1 prompt is listed, you do not need to respond to every prompt. Just pick one, whatever is most interesting to you. In addition to posting your 100 to 200 word summary, I would like you to comment on at least one of your peers' thought paragraphs. The idea here is to have some, ideally, comments and peer-to-peer interaction and discussion, which is very important for creating or fostering a sense of community in an asynchronous online space. I expect this comment to be made within 3 days of making your own post. If I notice that you are not making these responses to your peers, I will deduct points from your thought question grade. You're also going to join a learning community that will either be a movie club, a book club, or a music club. This is, meant to again help you think about drugs from a unique perspective. I think we can talk about mechanisms all day long, but I think it really helps enrich or lead to deeper thinking about addiction and drugs when you participate in this specific assignment. Here I expect the discussion to be very informal. In fact, I am going to try to stay out of these discussions as much as possible. Sometimes the rooms do get imbalanced, and I have to come in and play the role of the student. But my goal here is to create a sort of a social room for you guys to have informal discussions about drugs through a unique lens, where you bring in stuff from other classes, lived experiences, things you saw on the TV or listened to in the music, things that have shaped your views and opinions and thoughts about drugs. And then ultimately, I would like you to write a sort of critical thinking or deep thinking paper based on your reflections in this media club. This essay most certainly does not need to be a traditional academic paper. By that, you have probably written multiple papers now where you create do a lot of research, create an annotated bibliography, and use peer-reviewed sources to make your point. None of that's required here. You can default to that if that is what you're most comfortable with, or that's what you're passionate about. Maybe you really want to delve into, say, gender differences in addiction, and you really want to explore the academic literature further on that and relate some of that back to either the movie club or the music club. Either would be very feasible with that topic. Or maybe you really want to delve further into, well, yeah, I mean, that's just one example. But there have been so many different, creative ideas that have come as thesis ideas that have come from this topic or this assignment. I typically have a few students really sort of delve into AA, for example, or explore AA based off of Flight, the movie Flight. Some students really get into some of the social ramifications associated with addiction, like either from like the lens of the inner city environment, or there's a movie on sort of how this drug trade affects indigenous populations in South America. These sorts of topics, are what I'm looking for here. Or you can reflect on how, music or one particular song has sort of shaped how you view drugs. Some people really get into a lot of family history here too, or life history, and that's fine too. My point is, this is a wide open assignment. And I know that can be a little stressful, but know that that is by design. And I want it to be somewhat wide open so you can feel free to pursue many different topics. And both the TA and I are here to help guide you through this assignment. Please let us know if you grow frustrated or concerned about what expectations are, which are, somewhat open to prevent you from being constrained. I will have you submit an outline at midterm. And there's a template at the end of the syllabus that you follow there. The goal here is to really develop a foundation for your critical thinking essay, and also to make sure we're on the same page. I've only turned down one thesis assignment or proposal in the history of teaching. I do not think that there is any assignment that you're going to pick that would make me turn down or freeze your assignment. If you want to know, I will tell the one thesis assignment that I've turned down was from a student who wanted to argue or explore whether performing addiction-related research on prisoners would be a better alternative to performing experiments on animals. And there were just too many ethical problems with this, of course. There are, demographic issues with the prisoner population that would result in you performing research in very unethical ways. And there's also been a long history of performing research on prisoners, and it's generally frowned upon as being highly unethical. So I just couldn't accept a paper arguing that we carry out a very unethical practice. But even there, I explained this to the student, and I think we talked through it and I think we were all on the same page at the end of the day. But yeah, that's literally the only thesis assignment that I've ever turned down. You can argue whatever you want. One of my favorite addiction researchers is he's sort of changed his career drastically, and he's arguing now that sugar is more addictive than cocaine. And, he could be onto something there. So that you could even argue that if you want. You want to argue that psychedelics are, this wonderful psychiatric medicine that we should be embracing. This is also perfectly fine. If you want to argue that cannabis, for example, should be illegal, Schedule I drug, moving into Schedule III, horrible idea, also acceptable. For the most part, I do not allow my personal opinions, or this isn't to try to find out like what you agree with or believe or this or that. This has nothing to do with that. I'm really just encouraging you to think deeply about some aspect of addiction that you are passionate about. There's really no wrong answer here. I am open to all perspectives as long as they don't really trample all over human ethics. So after writing this outline, you will ultimately prepare a critical thinking essay. This replaces the final exam in this class. Again, this is not restricted to a neuroscientific research style academic paper. You may default to that if that is your comfort zone and all you feel comfortable with. But I would very much encourage you to take the opportunity to explore, and really just think about research or drugs from atypical viewpoints. Like, you might hear from a Kendrick Lamar song, for example, or Jello Biafra. He has had some pretty hot takes on drugs and the drug trade. These are very smart, brilliant, creative minds that, have said some very eloquent things about drugs that I think is just very useful to reflect on a little bit, and it gives you a deeper reflection of it. So how are assignments weighted in this class? Quizzes are a little over 1/3 of your grade. This is, again, the content part. It is important. You do need to know the content, but content isn't all this class is about. It's really, I'm going more for deep thinking and critical thinking. So, you also have these thought paragraphs that you have to complete every week on assigned sort of content, either research articles, reviews, or sometimes seminars by experts in the field, sometimes TED Talks. So that's what we are going to be critiquing there. And again, I really am going for critical thinking there. I'm not really looking for right or wrong answers. In many of these topics, they are very controversial. And, I'm going to push the envelope. I want to get controversial. I want to think about these topics from multiple perspectives. They are not as cut and dry as you might think. And then finally, we have that media club that I just described. Here you join music, book, or movie club. Interact with your peers. You need to have made a certain number of discussion posts by the end of the term. Ideally, you would do this over the course of the term, but again, I've made it very flexible, so you can make those posts whenever you like. You may make multiple posts going back and forth with the same person that count. An introductory post at the beginning of the term counts as one of your posts. So yeah, you must make 6 total discussion posts, including an introduction, which is a very easy discussion post to make, to get full credit for the media club. You also must submit an outline and then your critical thinking essay. Discrimination is something I take very seriously. I want us to explore controversial topics. However, I want us to do so civilly. To do this, I would like you to follow the following discussion guidelines. I would like you to challenge ideas you disagree with through reason and debate rather than avoidance or suppression, and generally challenge the idea, not the person. I think that we have gotten too, accustomed to just sort of attacking the person rather than really discussing the idea behind what we were discussing. So, rather than thinking of names, you can call the person you disagree with. Think about why you disagree with them and consider the points that you disagree on and the points that you do agree on. Lean into difficult conversations and be willing to consider diverse perspectives. Acknowledge that we come from different backgrounds and unique perspectives. This is actually really, I would argue, the best part of University of Colorado, Denver. It's the student body. I have never encountered a university where you have people from so many different backgrounds. You have veterans, you have 40, 50-year-old people coming back to college after having children, family, careers. You have 18-year-old students. Typically, that's about all you have. So you have much more limited discussion potential. So here, you could be talking with somebody that was in the Coast Guard and fought in the drug war. You could have likely, I guarantee you, there are multiple people in this class who are in recovery. So also just be something like, and thinking of like being sensitive of others. I mean, there are many things to be sensitive about. Being in recovery is certainly one of them. So think about that as we are discussing some of these topics. Also remember that drugs have affected different people from different identity backgrounds, throughout history differently. Women, and people who identify as men have been treated very differently over time. Laudanum, and other drugs like that were sort of prescribed to women or really pushed on women for really women's issues until last century. That happened for quite some time. And I would say laudanum, essentially many women were dependent on opioids, but we didn't recognize it as addiction. It was medicine at that point in time. It's an interesting thing. There are clearly racial and socioeconomic factors as well that have influenced drugs, including sentencing, and other factors as well. So it's complicated. There's a lot to talk in there and a lot of sensitive issues. So acknowledge when you agree with your critics and what you've learned from them. We get a lot of personal drug stories in this class. I'm not saying don't share them. You're welcome to. However, do know that you might want to limit some of that. I intend that stories like this stay in the classroom. I don't want you to post anybody's story on Twitter or try to out them as someone who believes this or that about cannabis or opioids. But I cannot guarantee that won't happen. So especially if you're planning to join the military one day or run for congressional office, you might want to be a little thoughtful or mindful about the drug experiences that you share. I highly recommend this website here called Arrowhead.org. This is what this website is for. People post all sorts of personal experiences about taking different drugs and combinations of drugs. It's a great place to learn about just case studies and firsthand reports of what these drugs feel like, in addition to sometimes what goes wrong. There is a lot of controversial stuff that comes up in this class. Various sensitive topics come up here, mental health issues, psychiatric disorders, including drug dependence. Many of us, suffer or are dealing with these issues. We talk about mental hospitals. We'll talk about prisons a little bit, race, socioeconomic status, sex, gender, death, suicide, war, and sexual assault. I just want to specifically, mention about sexual assault here. Primarily here, we're talking about this within the context of date rape drugs. Some of these are becoming more and more widespread. Ketamine is one that is scary to me. It, produces some amnesia, and at high dose can, basically sedate or render one unconscious. Yeah, it can be an agent of abuse, like many of these drugs, and it's I think important to be aware of that. Yeah, it's a tragic situation, but I frankly just don't think it's talked about enough. So that's the main reason that we are going to talk about sexual assault at some points in this class. But it is also, I would argue, referenced in some of the movies and a little bit to some of the music that will be in here as well. In particular, I would argue that in the movie Requiem for a Dream, yeah, I think we sort of get into the line of where, using drugs to make someone dependent, and then exploit that dependency by essentially coercing someone into prostitution or sex work. Going into or being forced into sex work is, a tragic situation, but it is often tied to drug dependence, and that is a way that is sort of this is pushed on people. So that's, I just want to be clear that that is how we will be discussing, or the context that sexual assault will be discussed in this classroom. The decision to include such material is not taken lightly. I understand that these issues, including sexual assault, have likely influenced people in this classroom. If you encounter a topic that is intellectually challenging for you, I acknowledge it can manifest in feelings of discomfort and upset. I'm including these topics because I do think that they are very important and timely and are simply not things that we can ignore. However, I would like everyone to be mindful that these issues affect members of our class and know that they will affect your future colleagues as well. I encourage you to take the necessary steps to ensure your emotional safety. If you need to excuse yourself from part of or all of discussion due to trauma related to this particular topic, do so. Let me know, and I will drop that discussion grade or find an alternative path for you to earn full credit. If you need to excuse yourself from one of my lectures, please let me know so I can drop the related quiz and review my presentation for future students. You are committed to the CU Denver Academic Honor Code. You cannot use AI to write the final draft of your critical thinking essay. I am okay with you using AI or ChatGPT, these sorts of things, to brainstorm as you're writing your essay. In fact, it's a powerful tool. I encourage you to do so. I use it myself to brainstorm. I do not use it for my final products. So here is the schedule of events. Every week there will be a module. You will have my materials to review. There will be a quiz. You will have external reviews from experts in the field to critique, and you must post your critical thinking essay on that. The media club will also be occurring in the background. Do not forget about the media club. There are always some students that are forgetting about the media club. Do not be that student. Here you can see the specifics associated with the critical thinking analyses that you're going to be responsible for. Obviously review my recordings, which will be in Canvas. Here are the links to the different specific materials that you have to critique for your critical thinking essays that I do every week. Here's, for example, a prompt for week 1. Is alcohol more dangerous than any of the following? Heroin, morphine, MDMA, psilocybin, cannabis? I don't know. You tell me. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of these I think are very fun topics to discuss, but remember you get 3 drops there. So feel free to pick and choose the topics that are most interesting to you. Finally, we have this media or music club. You hear the directions for the critical thinking essay, specifically what is due. Notice that I acknowledge that depending on the media club you join, it will take more time and effort to review the actual media. I think the book club will take the most time. So if you join the book club, you have to write the shortest essay. If you join the movie club, your essay is a little longer. And if you join the music club, your essay is the longest, but still only 4 pages. I think that's a very easy to do. If you want to join the book club, you will be reviewing Bill Poland's book, How to Change Your Mind. If you join the movie club, you will be responsible for viewing at least some of the following movies: Birds of Passage, which is in Spanish, with English subtitles that I added for you; Flight; Krisha, which is a very interesting indie film that the camera sort of makes you a little dizzy in this one. But I think the cinematography and sound editing, I think, do a fantastic job of sort of conveying what it's like to be an alcoholic and dealing with alcohol withdrawal, and especially in a social context. Pain and Glory, another Spanish film with English subtitles that I added. The House I Live In, an interesting documentary that really gets into some of the controversial aspects involving the drug war. And then 2 sort of big picture classics on addiction that are a little older now, so many of you might not have read them or seen them, but Drugstore Cowboy and Requiem for a Dream. So those are the movies that I picked, selected for you. You are also allowed to bring in movies that you are most interested in. And if you want to focus on those for your critical essay, that's perfectly fine. I do strongly encourage you to at least view some of the films from this movie series, though, so you can have similar movies to talk about with your peers that you would all have seen together. However, if you want to bring in your own movie, I encourage you to do so. And hopefully your peers will have some will have seen it too, or maybe will be inspired to see it. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. For the music club, I have different links here to sort of YouTube mixtapes that I created for you within different themes. So at first, we're going to sort of get into drugs or songs that have been sort of praising about drugs and how they might allow you to be useful in self-medication and or expanding the mind. Then some just about having fun, abusing drugs. Then we really get into some more social issues here on the drug deal. There's some great options here for essays. Like for example, why do we, for example, idolize moonshining or running shine? Like JFK's family was involved with this, as so the legacy goes. And I mean, like this is almost a positive, right? When Dolly Parton sings about Daddy's moonshine still, nobody really looks at it like the same way they would if somebody wrote about a meth lab. And well, I guess we do get there when we get to the Heisenberg song. So, maybe some people glorify the meth lab like they would the moonshine still, but I don't think that it's viewed quite the same. So, there's just one example, but what are some of these songs about the drug deal, make you think about, you know, and we expand on that, get a little one step further where we really talk about the effects of drugs and their interaction with society. There are some really smart artists here that have said some really interesting things, and then some that, just say interesting things. But yeah, Kendrick Lamar in particular, what a poet. His lyrics here are, very impactful to me. Jello Biafra is a very interesting character here. I would recommend as well if you can make it through that. Ooh, that Immortal Technique song. That is, also there's some smart artists. And then of course there are so many pro-cannabis anthems. I decided it needed a mixtape in and of itself. We sometimes think about cannabis a little differently than other drugs, but should we? I don't know. You let me know. You tell me what you think. And then the last two are really about getting clean and then staying clean. And I sort of see it almost as like a trajectory, as a hierarchy. I think most people, when they're 18 or so, start here. And then, once you have some years behind you, or have a little wisdom here, you might be looking into these last two mixtapes. Tyler Childers has some great songs on this. There's so many artists. I mean, Metallica has gotten clean. I mean, there was a period of time that Metallica was known for injecting Everclear vodka right into their veins. They don't drink anymore. They've come full circle, and I have some thoughts about drugs and what that can do to you. Again, Kendrick Lamar, just wow. Billy Strings, one of my favorite young artists. He's sort of been through the ringer and seen how methamphetamine has affected loved ones in his life. And has some pretty strong opinions about staying away from, the dust in the baggie. So I don't know, a lot of good choices in there. And again, if you don't like my choices, at least, be a sport, listen to a few, talk to them with your peers, but then say you have better music and bring it. And that can be the focus of your critical thinking essay too. I strongly encourage you in these media clubs to bring in your own material and also to bring in things from other classes. This is also a great time to contradict me. Perfectly fine to do so. Same as in the critical thinking essays, especially, these are some controversial topics we're going to talk about. And I try to keep my opinions out of it, but it's impossible to completely. Sometimes they will shine through. And it's perfectly fine for you to disagree with me or the TA. In fact, we're very lucky to have a very advanced TA for this class. So I'm hoping that maybe she and I will even have some little debate for you for your educational and entertainment. But anyway, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for bearing with me, and I hope you have a great semester. I look forward to learning a lot together.